Hello and welcome to Daily Politics on Trust TV. On this program, we discuss issues around politics, policy, and governance. I am Hamza Idris. The Independent National Electoral Commission has said that the nation has entered a critical stage ahead of the 2023 general elections. This is as campaigns for presidential and National Assembly elections are set to commence on the 28th of September, which is less than a month away. The Commission is also set to publish the final list of presidential and National Assembly candidates ahead of the commencement of campaigns. With all these timelines set by the nation's electoral umpire, political parties that have fielded candidates for various offices are yet to show Nigerians the trajectory their campaigns will be taking. This is aside the different internal issues being faced by some of the major parties in the race. With all of this heating of the polity, experts have also faulted candidates, their parties, as well as Nigerians for not focusing on the big issues of insecurity, economy, high cost of living, unemployment, business closures, and so on and so forth. So tonight on Daily Politics, we will be discussing issues in the polity. We are joined by Dr. Farouk Bibi Farouk, an analyst from the University of Abuja. You are welcome, sir.
Thank you very much, Hamza.
Yeah, we'll take a short break and the program commences when we return. Welcome back. This is Daily Politics on Trust TV, and let's now get to the discussions proper. Doctor, you are welcome.
Thank you very much.
Yes, so many things happened today in Nigeria.
Right.
Precisely in Plateau State, for instance.
Yes.
The Election Petition Tribunal sacked Musa Aga, representing Jos North Bassa Federal Constituency in the House of Representatives. And surprisingly, announced Adam London as the validly elected member representing that zone in the House of Representatives under the platform of People's Redemption Party, PRP. Yes, is it surprising to you?
Well, let's say one should not be too surprised. One should be delighted that small parties looking at old ideologies are beginning to have some input into the electoral process or into the democratic process. I think this is the first member of the National Assembly that PRP has. Sometimes some politicians get into these parties just for the purpose of gaining an electoral seat and decamp immediately after. But from all indications, there is some indications that this one is a properly bred PRP representative. Okay. And I think I would congratulate PRP for this, and it is the beginning. Probably they would be able to make more impact in their polity. Yeah. The Plateau State politics is also something of note, because there seems to have been effort or some elite connivance to deny the presence of certain people or languages or tribes existence or recognition within Plateau State. And I think this candidate comes from that section where some elite in Plateau State would not want to accept indigenous to Plateau State. I think it's an advancement in our politics. We have to come to learn to live with the fact that you can represent any part of this country as a citizen of this country. I think there are some Igbo representatives in Lagos, and there used to be, Nigeria started with that cohabitation, with the unity. The Europeans did not bring interrelationship between us as units and tribes. They came and met it, and even to a large extent adulterated some of it, created divide and rule in order for them to continue. The relationship between people of, we call southern Nigeria and northern Nigeria, that the British created as north and south, existed long before we ever knew who the British were. So I think we're coming to terms with the fact that people could be in a place. I'm expecting probably very soon you have Yoruba representatives from Kano, Sabongari, and other places.
Winning elections.
Winning elections,
Now
because the numbers are there to
yes,
win the elections.
the plateau issue, you know, it was a by-election conducted in February.
February, yes.
Yes, now the tribunal cited illegality in the ruling People's Democratic, PDP,
Yes.
In nominating the candidate. What does this signify? Because many elections and primaries had been conducted. Now there is a message from Plateau. What is your take?
Well, I don't know the real nitty-gritty, whether there was a candidate that the PDP discarded in order to present.
Yes, they had factions.
Factions.
Yeah, there are
yes.
factions.
And so the other faction was discarded for a person that was not validly nominated. That is one aspect. The most interesting aspect is about the votes casted that the tribunal looked at and found out that there were overvotings in so many places.
Yes.
Elements of rigging.
To give advantage.
So now that the tribunal has taken away that advantage, and with the new modifications in the electoral law, we might expect that real figures will begin to show, representing real people where they reside, and therefore we'll begin to see representations that are not what some of the elite of certain areas really are happy with, but they cannot do away with all over the country, I hope.
Yeah, still on Plateau, because there are real issues happening. A court today, you know, cleared former Governor Jonah Jang of all wrongdoings. He was taken to court for massively, allegedly looting state resources. But today, he has been cleared of all the allegations. What is your take?
Well, I don't know. Probably the judiciary is getting frustrated with the fact that after a long process of adjudication, somebody can even be pardoned at the end of the day. So
like diarrhea of the same Plateau and
to pardon him in their own way. But I don't know. I wouldn't want to now make a judgment against him since he has been cleared. But I think we need to be at least more serious about these things. We see what these people do, and escaping the dragnet the way many of them do will not help the system.
But you see, Doctor, most judges, when issues like this come, at the end of the day, you see issues of lack of diligent prosecution.
Actually, investigation.
Okay.
Many of the times, you don't blame the judges. Some of the cases are deliberately killed by the prosecutors themselves, because that is the best way to get somebody off the hook, to present evidence that can be thrown out. And it's a very old method. Sometimes the issue is so strong that there is no way you can tell the public that this one can go free. So you arrest, you investigate, and you begin prosecution, where you provide data or information that cannot stand. And in the end of the day, the person escapes not only that judgment, but any further investigation, because he cannot be charged again on those issues.
Yeah.
So sometimes these things happen, and judges have a lot of times complained about the fact that prosecutors do not come with diligently investigated cases.
Yeah.
They make more noise in the media than they do in the courts. Sometimes you see a case of, they will tell you 600 billion missing. But by the time you go into the nitty-gritty of the case, maybe it was 600 billion budgeted.
Yeah.
And then at the end of the day, some of it was taken, but they would take the budgeted issue and make a case against somebody.
Yeah.
But by the time a judge starts coming through, you would see that what they are saying is quite not what is in the media.
Yeah. Now, INEC said Nigeria, has entered critical stages in terms of electioneering this month. Yesterday, Professor Mahmoud Yakubu at a forum said that beginning from now, it's like we have entered critical stage. For instance, the issue of presidential candidates, the names and all that on 20th, that of governorship on the 4th, and then campaign in public by political parties officially commences on September 28, as provided by Section 94, subsection 1 of the Electoral Act. What is your understanding of getting into critical stage?
Critical stage. Let me start by saying that I personally take exception to the manner in which INEC dramatizes this political process, this process of getting an election, to the extent that the society, the people ignore important things and continue to just go through a drama like it's a party, like it's a convention of merrymaking. You know, these are natural things in a democracy. The fact that INEC is taking about 1.5 years of creating a timetable and making, in fact, I suspect that it might be deliberate. Because how could INEC be just so media frenzy, you know, hyping up every activity just because it's an election that is going to come? I know the interest of the contestants and the fact that there is benefit once they win offices, it's also high. But I think INEC should be the last body that should be hyping up this issue to the extent that you rather listen to INEC than listen to the presidential speech. You know, we are waiting for this step by step, and we are losing time, and our economy is collapsing, and nobody is listening. Even when you talk about the real issues, people are more interested in that jamboree.
Yes, I wanted us to go there.
The election into jamborees.
Yes, but the issue, of course, it is said that this is the longest election transition in the history of Nigeria. Yes. But when you look at some of the things INEC is doing, is to actually prepare the candidates, and they also want many of litigations and all that to be completed before the election proper. On its side, don't you think this is the right thing to do, to actually prepare the political parties, to prepare the candidates, so that maybe you will not have post-election litigations and all that?
Well, as far as I think INEC feels it is doing well, it is doing well. It's not only INEC, to be honest. The government itself is guilty of that. How many times did they play with the electoral bill before it became an electoral act? Submitted 6-7 times, hyping about it, talking about whether it would be electronically transmitted. You know, so much drama. While the real issues, our economy, what affects us, while Naira is jumping up, you know, and on other things that are affecting us, school fees, that you are taking an issue of election that should be a matter of 3 months and taking 1.5 years, putting it in the mainstream media. It's what fills up all the airwaves, and at the end of the day, I don't even know what the campaigners are going to say about the situation we are. Maybe they are being given a cover not to address the situation, because now we are just going into like a dramatic personnel, and, you know. And I think we should take note of this. It is not good for the economy. We are even a presidential system where you have all the time 4 years to prepare for it. What about if we are a parliamentary system where elections can come anytime? You know, so elections in a democracy are not what we hype them to be. Yes, there are opportunities for you to change or give a second mandate to a person and decide whether performance has happened or not. But the United States of America, like that we copy, that has a very buoyant democracy, does not have INEC. It doesn't have a national electoral body.
They are domiciled in states.
In fact, they are under most of the activities are under bureaucracies, and then the bulk of the monitoring is done by private media houses, or at least media houses and other interested NGOs and so on. You know, so but you know that it will come. You know it will have to come. So you see candidates looking at issues. But right now we are looking at the institution, INEC and the security institutions. How is their performance going to affect a candidate? That is more important than what a candidate has to deliver. And I think we have to move away from that and come back to addressing our candidates, to be interrogating the issues with our candidates and knowing precisely what they have for us. But like you said, whether we like it or not, the next few days, like INEC has said, are critical times, and we have to accept them as critical times in the polity.
And they said campaign by political parties will officially commence on September 2018.
Yes.
Is it really true that it's 28?
Campaigns have been going on. I don't know whether there is another mode of campaign that is going to come. Some politicians will tell you the campaigns have not started, they are not ready to say certain things. But there are certainly nothing more to say, because all the leading aspirants, candidates in the parties are jumping from one location to another in teams and groups and giving lectures and talking about their policies. And I mean, MBA had something that everybody applauded as a campaign, because the candidates went there to explain their policies, to try and sell what they have for Nigerians. What else is campaign? Is it the riding on podiums and dancing with the whatever that we think it's campaign, and that is when INEC will start, the party will start that time? I don't understand.
And that is where I want to ask you, as a political scientist and a member of a political party, New Nigeria People's Party.
Affiliate, yes.
Yes. What is really the difference between campaign and consultation?
With the people?
Yes.
Once you are selling your ideas, you are campaigning for yourselves. Once you have ideas, you continue to sell them. You know, like I say, INEC is making too much out of these issues. Like, okay, they have
by
now
segmenting
and announcing, like, okay, it's like a race. On your marks, get set.
Yeah.
On this, it is not like that. Politics and democracy is about continuous interrelationship of ideas, interrogation, continuous collision of ideas, constant, being progressively improved over time. And if you look at even when we started our first republic, most of our political leaders were writing books, were selling ideologies. You know, where now you don't see that, because the politicians are waiting for INEC to tell them when to start. You know, you have an ideology and you're waiting for when you are going to start.
Maybe they don't want to be taken to court by INEC.
The issues are not about, you know, going to court, and it should be something that INEC, yes, wary about going to court. Maybe about the expenses of going to court. They are all unnecessary in Nigeria. You know, look at Kenya. They give 14 days at a presidential election. 14 days after your petition, the Supreme Court must give a judgment.
14 days?
14 days. They are now soon going to give a judgment. It's almost 14 days. They are on pre-trials now. So if you now have a situation where you don't allow the big wigs to come and negotiate and talk the grammars and this thing, look at the proper issues and give a timeline, and there is justice. You know, you trust the judicial system. What is, you know, we used to have time where 3.5 years would elapse before somebody's mandate is declared illegal. You know, that has been checked a little bit now. They have some time space, but the time space is too long for, as far as I'm concerned, every election.
A lot of distractions.
Yes, every election should be concluded in the judiciary in 14 days. What is difficult with 14 days? You decide, you know, and life continues, because you have to address this man. You don't have to be distracting him, like you said. The person that has won should not be distracted by somebody who will never give up, or the person that has even been injured should accept his injury, even if there is injustice, so that the country can continue, because we are not God. We cannot not decide 100%.
Not to keep dissipating
energy and resources, and you know, and you know. So I think INEC might be doing these things because it doesn't want to be
seem to be docile, maybe
docile, or go to courts to all 4 years and 8 years they are defending one issue or the other. We should look at that at the point of legislation, and probably be able to cover INEC sufficiently to the extent that it will not be, you know, too involved with the prosecution, you know, and let's go on, because you know, we are in critical economic situations where, you know, the world has left us behind, and we are now in a situation where we are even trying to say we're happy we're drowning. I don't understand.
Yeah. Doctor, a few days ago,
Yes.
The presidential candidate of PDP,
Yes.
Atiku Abubakar, the national chairman for governors and all that, converge on Kano
Oh.
and picked one of your members
Oh, yes.
in NPP. Have you recovered from the shock?
There is no shock in it.
Why?
Because take a look at it. 3 or 4 months ago, somebody came to your house and sought for refuge. You didn't go to the bush to go and look for that person. Came seeking refuge. And you're kind enough to provide that refuge. And if after a week, the person says, I'm packing my things, I want to proceed somewhere, it will shock you. Shockers come differently. If it is a person you have built your house with that decides they are packing out of the house, you would start to ask why. But this is a transitor, on transit constantly.
But remember, Doctor, while receiving him,
Yes.
it was with pomp and pageantry, and it added impetus to the energy in NNPP, which you belong. And then suddenly,
When you have a visitor, do you show him you're sad? You celebrate him. You go and bring the best drink in your fridge and give him and make him happy. Welcome him. Yes, he's important. I wouldn't say he's not important. He has a pedigree of elective positions that he has held, whether by luck or by effort, most of it by luck. But in real politics, I always say in real politics, Governor Shekarau did not take away from the NNPP. He came to benefit from the NNPP. NNPP did not plan to benefit from Shekarau. He was not in their plan. But he looked at it. One of the things he has is he actually consults his shura, who, by the manner in which he has set them up, have obligations to tell him the truth. And that is what happened to him, I think. They told him that, look, the situation in Kano, the way it looks, it's NNPP that will win the election. We can go along and play along, but if we want the seats, let's do NNPP. And so he created this, balkanized himself from the APC and moved to where he thought he would win election. Probably after going there, he thought, I do not believe that he was asking for, let's say, 14 National Assembly seats, 24 State Assembly seats. And of course, I think Kwankwaso was clever enough to have told him, go and resolve this thing with Abba, who is our gubernatorial candidate.
Yeah.
Now, no gubernatorial candidate would surrender more than half of his future State Assembly to an outsider.
Why?
Because they have already created a crisis
a big
for him.
contender.
No. If he was a big contender, his people would win. But Abba has a relationship with every member of the State Assembly that is aspiring. Every candidate of the special State Assembly that is aspiring. That is the team that will win the election. Because everybody will deliver his constituency on that day. So if you now bring aliens to you and say they are the ones who, it's a disaster.
Yeah.
So I think it's a political miscalculation for them to expect. But Kwankwaso handed over the 3 senatorial seats, all of them out to nobody in his Kwankwasia movement has a senatorial seat. All the 3 seats.
As concession,
As concessions to them. Because he is seeking to be president and he believes as far as Kano is concerned, he will get the votes he needs for presidency. If it was in another state, he will not concede those seats because they will bring the votes. Of that senator would bring him votes on the day he's also contesting his own election. But in Kano, he knows that anybody you bring, so long as he's under your umbrella, his movement, disciplined movement, one of the most disciplined political movements in Nigeria is the Kwankwasia movement that is now a part of the NNPP. And every calculation made is really, when it is debated and looked at, it makes a lot of sense. So Kwankwaso conceded 3 senatorial seats to APC returnees. And he's still ready to continue with that arrangement. But of course, to expect that Abba would surrender half of his future state assembly to outsiders is asking for too much for a visitor who,
Maybe
has
a
come,
suicide
who has come to visit us.
Have you done a post-mortem now after what happened?
Well, the post-mortem on us, I think, is not on NMPP is not a very serious issue.
Okay.
But I think we should look at PDP. Look at two things that are in PDP now. Okay, Shekarau has met all PDP members like Amin Wali, who have been there from day one, have never moved, have stayed there. And he has run from pillar to post. In fact, he defeated a PDP governorship candidate. He came back and joined PDP. He was part of starting APC. Now he's back to PDP, and nobody knows. Some of his people have moved one time to PRP, his gubernatorial candidate. So nobody knows precisely what his next move is. So is PDP comfortable with handing over its structures to him? Or would it accommodate him as a visitor like we did and respect him as we respect visitors and expect his next move? PDP must have poached him. So it has a purpose for poaching him. And I think one of the reasons is because taking all clearances and looking at the calculations, they found out that they have been really emasculated out of Kano politics, especially by the Konkosia movement. When Konkosia moved out of PDP, practically there is no PDP structure existing in Kano. And the calculation is they might not get up to 5%. And I know that he was poached, Shekarau, to the extent that at least for them to even try and get the necessary 25% in Kano. Because now, what it is looking like, if they are not in good terms with NMPP, then the government structures, which will also disappear because they are now sitting on dissolving feet. You know, because it's just a government that is keeping the APC structure in Kano. You know, the Buhari aspect of it is nowhere, which was what could have given the votes. So the government structure is dissolving, clayfoot. And so,
maybe from your perspective,
well, it will come to pass. I think you would see it anyway. Because it's a government structure.
Okay.
The governor has not built a political structure.
Okay, we will discuss more on this.
All right.
Because we have to take a short break, and when we return, the discussion continues. Please remain with us.
TV, documenting the Nigerian story.
If you are just joining us, this is Daily Politics on Trust TV. Remember, you can follow the conversation on our various social platforms on Facebook, Instagram, and watch us live on YouTube. Doctor, welcome back.
Thank you.
Yes, you spoke on NNPP. In the last 2 days, let me say leading, maybe, I hope you will not be offended, when I say leading opposition, PDP. Wike versus the national chairman. Some people on the side of the national chairman, others on the side of Wike. They exchange expressions. The national chairman called Wike and his supporters children. Wike on the other side describe all sorts of words. They brought him out from the gutter and they will help him to defeat.
They hope to beat the PDP.
The PDP. What is your take? This is a leading opposition political party. What is really the problem with them?
Well, leading will take leading as a, you see, as it is today, there are 3 leading opposition parties.
Okay.
When there was a leading opposition party, all the opposition got together. That was when APC became a leading opposition party. When it was CPC, it was not a leading opposition party.
Because it was operating in isolation?
Isolation, and there were other opposition parties strong, ANPP and APGA and so on and so forth. But let's assume that since they have held the federal government, we were there, we held the federal government at a point in time, and so they are relevant. They are a relevant opposition party. And every opposition has responsibility too, to be organized, to face the realities of our times, to give solutions and alternatives that are viable.
Yeah.
Opposition is not a game, it's not a play, it's not a calling people to lunch and dance, and opposition is a serious business. In fact, I have been in opposition almost all of my political life. Even when in the ruling party, I'm in an opposition faction.
Okay.
So
within
the ruling party, I was in opposition.
Just to make things work?
Yes, because I learned that one voice could still make a difference. That's why I encourage my friends, go and join politics in your local place. If you attend a ward meeting and you say something sensible, it continues to reverberate in your community. It could change everything, even up to the national level, once it is sensible and reasonable. You don't have the opportunities to say such things until you are in politics. So I understand. What is happening in the PDP, I think, is unfortunate. You will take it beyond the PDP to some extent, the manner of politics in some parts of the country. I think Wike is playing the politics of his area, what he knows. That once you come back rule, you are king. Once you go to the bar and pay for everybody's drink, then you are king for that period of time. That is the politics, but that is the political culture there, which is a bit different from when you are up somewhere in the north, where you could have all the money, but there could be other factors
to determine the role you play.
You play. So Wike has all the money and has used a lot of it, but that does not qualify him. The money and those efforts do not 100% qualify him to lead. He needs a lot more. And I think if he has advisors, especially important elder statesmen within the South, this is the time to call Wike to order because of his future. Because he has passed the level where he's playing against an opponent. He's now expressing himself in a manner that can be held against him for future leadership. You don't expect somebody that would be a president to continue to hammer on these things in the manner he's doing. If you lose an election, you have lost an election. If you don't have anything to hold in the procedure of that election, then accept the fate you have gotten and move further and try to express a magnitude, or I don't want the word magnitude, but express the magnanimity expected of you as a leader, so that when there is another opportunity, you are giving a higher standard or higher level than a newcomer. But when you mess up and it is seen to be that, look, you have derailed, then it affects the next chance you have.
But some party faithful within the PDP, the feelers we are getting is that they really need Wike because of the resources at his disposal, which will help them during the real election. Do they have any option?
I think Wike used resources when there was no election.
Okay.
And he used it on the party. And it was effective. He brought about 3 chairmen and removed them using resources, you know. But when it comes to the nitty-gritty of providing a leader for the country, now it is about the country. It's not just about the party. His resources will become insignificant. It could be effective probably in his state. But even despite his resources, how did he end up winning that election in Rivers? It was a tough battle for him, just his state.
So you have a feeling that he's a spoiled horse? They can still do without him?
Definitely, in the next 2 weeks, you'll find that the significance of Wike would start to diminish. In fact, that's why one of the reasons why I blame INEC. It is this long transition that is creating this kind of drama.
Okay.
Because if someone knows he has only 2 weeks, he would make his decisions and take a stand. And that's the only stand available to Wike that will help him is to remain in his party. I'm not in his party. I don't want him to build his party. Yeah, but as if I was advising him, tell him all this drama around. Because you can't go to another party and sacrifice your governorship. You can't go to another party and become a prominent candidate. Atiku knows that.
And that is the question I want to ask. Because it appears the Atiku is helpless of sorts, with his apparent silence towards what...
No, he's now learning to be a matured person, which ultimately will give him that advantage.
Oh, okay.
You know, as a leader, when somebody is messing up, misbehaving and insulting people directly and indirectly, the best thing for you to do as a good leader is to keep a distance and try to see how checks can be made. You don't join him in the ring just because you are a leader. And I think Atiku might be trying to do that. Atiku's presidential candidature this time around is a little bit more matured with age, I think. I think so. That does not make him the best candidate in the ring, but I think
maybe yours is the best.
Certainly our candidate is the best, and we have so many reasons to show that.
Okay, to touch briefly on the ruling party, also, it also has its fair share of problem. The Muslim ticket is still an issue. What is its chances as an opposition politician, going by the problem it is contending with?
If the APC has problems, it is not about those especially Muslim.
You think it's not a factor, a serious factor?
No. In Nigerian politics, if you notice, we are always hot about regions. But we had not been too much about religion until the last 5 years.
Okay.
You know? So it's a new thing, and it is not going to catch fire like region. The regionalism of their north, their south, that one was built by the colonialists, and it continued into our independence, continued during the struggle for independence, that you tend to wonder how somebody at the border of north and south lives. You know, you would think that it is Korea and North Korea and South Korea that we have in this country. Deliberate, I know, deliberate. But the issue of religion has its own different metamorphosis, and the calculations in religion has not been higher than that of region. If you are a Christian from the north, for example, you want to go to the south to get acceptance, yes, you'll have a different religious calculation in the south. Same thing if you are a Muslim from the south and you want to come into the north, you'll have a different religious calculation about it. But this is about, that calculation is not the most important thing for APC.
Okay.
The most important thing for APC is the failure of governance now. If this candidate is going to win this election, he has to distance himself from the failure of this government. Already, you could see that talks like he has never nominated a minister, he has never been consulted, the idea that even the president did not endorse him, those are the things that APC is trying to use to win election.
Okay, between these two extremes, APC, its problems, PDP, its problem, lies, another big issue, economy.
Yes.
Security, loss of jobs.
jobs in particular.
Fear in the minds of Nigerians.
Yes.
So, what is your take on these salient issues that the politicians are not really bothered to talk about?
The politicians are running away from it for two reasons. One side that is in power has really big time messed up. The one that is, you call the relevant opposition, did not do much better when they were around. And this is why the issue of NNPP and Labour Party is gaining
momentum
and is becoming relevant.
Because you have never tested the power, so you can now claim that you will address the problem.
No. Also, these two parties are now coming with ideological positions.
Okay.
You see, when the PDP was formed, the only ideology there was to get the military out. When the APC was formed, the only ideology there was to get the PDP out. Every other information or any other commitment that comes on a podium of dancing politicians. Nothing more. But for the first time, we're beginning to see Labour Party telling you that, look, you have to go low on consumption and look at production.
Coming with specifics.
Their only problem is their candidate has been the major importer of consumables all his life in Nigeria, one of the biggest. So it is just now that he has realized that everything he was importing was poison to us, taking our jobs away and creating our economic crisis.
Are you not campaigning for your
candidate? No, I'm not. Then this one is talking about education. You have to have an enlightened, educated society in order to be able to take the right decisions to get out of the conundrums that we have. So we have these ideas. The Aminu Kano ideology, if it is not the NNPP ideology, that's the Kwankwassia ideology. Kwankwassia is just a supporter group in NNPP.
As I ask, the real problem is escape, as you said. Do you foresee something different happening in addressing problem of insecurity? Because every other thing revolves around peace.
Yes, I think I will talk from what I know in the party that I work with. The effort is to take all the issues down to the grassroots. Set up a situation where everybody in the grassroots will be participant in governance, would have a stake in governance. And I think by the time the manifestos and the campaign starts, probably people will see that difference. A difference of going out of the elitist official way of doing elections to come to the informal way of doing elections where people participate. And when people participate and have a stake, a lot of the problems we have will disappear. Because like everybody knows, security is not about the number of forces you have and the weapons they have. It is the attitude of the people that really will stop insecurity. So the security issue is really mismanaged. Because yes, some effort made in the northeast, but it has transferred to the northwest and north central, and there is no control. So it is just a change of environment that the APC has achieved, you know, and the fortune of a clash between two terrorist groups that disseminated one, and now a more dangerous one has appeared and is more effective and has better training, better networking globally. So, but we tend to want to celebrate that one is gone. Good, it's gone. And there is some effort, to be honest. In recent days,
but not enough.
But not enough.
But you see, a few weeks ago, there was this anger in the country, including the National Assembly, where senators threatened to impeach Mr. President. Within days, it fizzled out the issue. Is there any conspiracy to distract attention of people? Because if a serious matter of impeachment will only, fly for a few days and then it fizzle out. What?
I think it's a very significant thing that happened. I think it was impromptu.
The
impeachment, yes, came out of frustration by the members, not out of planning. Okay. And that is an important message to the government. And I think that effort, that impromptu impeachment issue has made the government stand more, take more things on security a bit more serious. That might be responsible for why the president now is not taking nonsense from his officers. He's giving them orders that either you succeed or you get fired. These were things that were not happening in the last 7 years. And probably because the terrorists felt bold enough to say they even can take the president. That challenge to anybody, even if it's the president of lepers, cannot stand. No leader would accept that somebody would just threaten his own existence, you know, and go free. So those two things might be the reason why we are seeing, but good enough, we are seeing it. Nobody believes that, no serious person will believe that impeachment could happen in the next 6 months or during election period.
But you believe it played a role?
It
maybe
played a role.
in awakening the president,
the presidency, awakened the service chiefs, you know, because it came impromptu. So it's not a conspiracy by opposition parties or by opposition within the party or something. There is frustration among the legislature or in the National Assembly that really got to a point where even those that were supporting them, including the fact that the primaries didn't go too well for so many of the members of the National Assembly. But all of those things are things that could be managed if there is a formidable organized party structure and government involvement. So whatever might have happened really jolted the president. I think it's the second thing that I've noticed in this administration that has jolted it. The SARS thing, they took that serious, and probably this impeachment issue politically, they took it also serious.
And honestly, you can see relative peace, I think, across the country.
You know, the effort now of using hardware, hardware effort, it will give you relief. Then if you continue up to a point, you now start putting the software, fighting poverty, addressing misunderstandings between groups, between, like in the harder farmers issue, the Fulani now Hausa issue. They have probably outside influences within them. You try to address those influences. And the danger in it is now we don't have the resources to do the
I wish we can discuss this more, but you know, we are discussing issues in the polity from the university. Yes. Last week you went for total strike. In just 2 words, please, what do you really want and how can this be resolved? Because it's very important to discuss this in few words.
Well, I always start this discussion by saying I do not represent ASU. I don't have the mandate to represent ASU, but I think we should take our education serious. Tertiary education is at the brink. Secondary education, public, is dead. Primary education, public, is dead. Tertiary is at the brink. It has been 5 years since the government, I mean, it has almost been since 2013. Government has not committed to responsibilities. It set up committee in 2009.
Parents are getting tired with the extended...
The parents should address the government.
All right.
You know, parents are the ones that set up the government.
They should talk to the government.
If they decide to impeach the president, he would be serious like the security.
All right, all right. Thank you very much, Dr. Bibi Farouk, for honoring our invitation, and we want to thank you for your enlightened presentation. Viewers, that is a wrap on today's program. We thank you for being with us. Join us tomorrow. Thank you.